know your name, I swear I do. It's on the tip of my tongue. Sorry, what did you say? I've known you for how long? Your face is so familiar, but no name comes to mind. Please, can you remind me if you'll be so kind? Staring out into space, asking God to hear my case. Trying to think of all things past. How long will my memory last?
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm Lori LeBay, the host and founder of Alzheimer Speaks. I'm also the daughter of a mother who lived with dementia for 30 years. And I have to tell you, it's been life-changing for me. This whole journey has been absolutely a fantastic one for me in terms of connecting with others who are dealing with dementia. Alzheimer Speaks, for those of you that are new, is an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care culture from crisis to comfort around the world. And we do that by just raising everyone's voice and getting people to understand that there are so many products, services, and tools out there to assist people. We also help companies expand their brand footprint by leveraging our various platforms like the radio show, our blog, our YouTube channel, our Dementia Chats, which are video interviews with people with dementia, and our website and so forth. So if you are in this field of industry and are looking to tap into it a little bit more, please reach out to me and give me a jingle. I also want to thank our listeners because you guys are so loyal and you are so committed to us in terms of sharing our content with your spheres of influences, your Facebook friends, your LinkedIn colleagues, your Twitter peeps. And, you know, by sharing that information, getting the word spread, it's just easier for people to grab a hold of that information when they're in need. And so, again, I can't thank you enough because you have gotten our reach far and wide, being recognized by Oprah and Maria Shriver and Dr. Oz and AARP most recently. And that wouldn't have happened without you. So thank you so much for all you do in terms of your belief in raising awareness and removing stigmas. I also invite you to share your topic ideas and stories of caring with me because maybe you can be the next guest. Today we're going to have a wonderful show for you and I have to excuse me, my allergies are really kicking into gear here. And you too can join the conversation by dialing 323-870-4602. That's 323-870-4602. And I would be glad to pull you into the conversation. Now, before I introduce our guest and my co-host today, I always like to give a shout out to a few different organizations. So I have to say thank you to Calendar Cards. They have not only a wonderful memory system that they have created that helps people manage their day, called Calendar Cards, which is both calendar and card starts with a K, but they've also created a memory cafe directory where you can find your memory cafes closest to your area, or if you have a new one, you can be listed there for free. Just go to memorycafedirectory.com. And then I want to give a shout out to the Purple Table Reservations. You can go to purpletables.com, but they are about basically educating restaurants on how to serve the dementia population in a dignified and simplified manner to meet their needs. So they have an app. You can see what cities they're in. They are looking for more restaurants to join because they just launched this not too long ago. But the need is really great. They have people in all states looking for restaurants that are dementia friendly. And let's see, last I'm going to give a shout out to is the Alzheimer's Research and Prevention Foundation. They're dear to my heart. I just love them there. And you can reach them at alzheimersprevention.org. That's alzheimersprevention.org if you are looking for a holistic method to assist you during this time. If you are a person having symptoms, maybe you're diagnosed or maybe you're caring for a loved one, no matter what, they'll be able to help you through. So let me introduce first, and I'm just going to give a short version of this, my co-host today, who is Lori Shearer, and she's just an incredible woman who is living with dementia. She has a fabulous blog and an important voice that needs to be heard, and I'm just thrilled to have her on the show with us today. So welcome, Lori.
Thank you, Lori. It's such a privilege, as always, to be here with you and with Christine today.
Yeah. Do you mind giving the audience just a little bit of background about what type of dementia you have and how long you've been living with it?
I was diagnosed August 13th of 2013 with early onset Alzheimer's and FTD, which is Frontal Temporal Dementia. When the doctor told me FTD, I thought I had flowers in my brain, but I soon found out that's not the way it goes. And at that time, the doctor pretty much told us to go home and die. And since then, I've learned that through strategies and techniques and paying attention to what causes the symptoms, that we actually can live a full and beneficial life.
Wonderful. I so agree. Now, our guest today is Christine Marie Meehan, and she is married to Joe and has been married for 31 years. So congratulations, Christine. She's also the mother of two grown children that are 22 and 26 years old. She's a formal school teacher and a business owner of Sitters at the Shore, LLC. She's a caregiver for Joe, who has frontal temporal lobe dementia, and she has been caring for him for 4 years. It started when he was 57, and he is now 61 years old. And she is the editor and publisher of Dementia Care 101, a magazine for Cape May and the Atlanta County in New Jersey. And I was lucky enough to meet her when I was out at a conference for the Alzheimer's Association, and I was just so impressed with her publication. I said, I have to have you on the show. So welcome, Christine.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Anything I missed in your introduction that you want to share with people?
Not at all. It is Cape May and Atlantic County. There's two small counties in the very southern tip of the state of New Jersey that I try to service.
Okay,
with my magazine.
Wonderful. But yet you get people. Your word is spreading, I guess, of what you're doing, and so you get people around the nation right now that are interested. So that's kind of fun to hear. But let's start with talking a little bit about what it's like to experience early onset dementia and how you can support that.
Okay, well, unfortunately, early onset dementia comes about in your lifetime when everything is flowing smoothly. Children are in school or attending college, you're working, your husband's working, you're maintaining your home, and life is just grand. And all of a sudden, strange and wacky things start to occur. And sometimes they're noticeable, sometimes they're not. Sometimes it causes arguments and disagreements and some, relationship challenges, not realizing that here it's actually a brain disease that is occurring. And it's very, very, difficult to diagnose. But once it's diagnosed, it's basically you're in the middle of a traffic jam, and there's nowhere to turn off the road. So there's a lot of research, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of, there's jobs being maintained or lost, or businesses that have to come to an end. It's just a major disruption in your average life. And it's not easy. It's not easy for those that have younger children. It's not easy for those that have older children. It's not easy, obviously. Like Lori knows, even when you're a little bit older and your children are maybe out of the house, or you have a different type of lifestyle. It's never really easy when you get a diagnosis like that.
Yeah, I would agree. Lori, anything you want to add? Because you don't have children, correct?
No, we do not have any children. I was a career person. I was very into my career. When we found out we couldn't have children, I put heart and soul into my job and loved my career and my work. And then suddenly that comes to an end.
Right.
Just like jamming on the brakes. It's like it's over.
Exactly.
And that's difficult. It's hard because then you say, okay, I'm dying. What do I do now?
Yep. Well, yeah, because that's what you're posed with from the doctor, is kind of get your affairs in order. Christine, how did you break it to the kids?
It wasn't easy. I had to, first of all, once we finally did get a diagnosis, which took a little bit of time, not as long as others, thank goodness. I went to the FTD organization in Pennsylvania. They mailed me a lot of literature, doubles, and I shared that with my children. And then the University of Pennsylvania had an FTD seminar or educational conference, and I attended with my children and tried to give them as much education about what this disease is all about, and what their dad is going to start to experience and what we're going to experience. And it was extremely devastating for my daughter. My son had a little bit more of an open mind, but all three of us basically went in there with eyes wide open, and when we walked out, our mouths were wide open. So there was a lot of information to inhale all at one time, and not realizing how this was going to progress. Will that be our dad? Will that be my husband? Will this go very quickly? Will this be a slow process? Which, what's the next change will we experience and see and observe? So just education really first and foremost, so we knew what to expect and knew what we were looking into and knew what was down the road. And then after that came the rest of the job of organizing your life, the getting disability and going through social services and seeing what the community provides and, kind of working out finances and going to the elder law attorney and preparing for the future. And there's just so much. You're just in a whirlwind. It's very, very difficult to concentrate and focus. So having a family and friends and support to help you navigate the first couple months is just so crucial.
Yeah. Well, and your children would have been, your son, it looks like, would have been 18 years old at the time of diagnosis, and your daughter 22. So that's very young and fresh. And it's the last thing you expect, one of your parents to have. And again,
Sure.
Most of us don't even know what the heck it is until the train hits through the through the house, and then you're groveling with it. Now, did you? I noted here that you were a former elementary school teacher. Did you have to quit your job to care for him, or?
At that time, I was substitute teaching, but my husband actually owned a business that I helped and worked at, and little by little, I've noticed that he wasn't able to continue the work that he was doing. So my son and I took over, but that really wasn't my business. So it was something that had to come to an end. So I had to kind of close shop there. And it was very scary because I wasn't working full time, and the little part-time jobs that I was doing, I could still continue to substitute and do a couple part-time jobs, but as things progressed and years have passed, it was more and more difficult. And then I started having to get care for him because he couldn't stay home alone. So it was just, a lot of changes going on. And obviously the dynamics of our life had changed. So eventually I couldn't work because finding in-home care for the times that I wanted to work was basically impossible. So I had the flexibility of being a substitute teacher, and I was able to do that for a little bit.
Okay, great. Now, you had mentioned where you looked for help. You know, you went to the FTD Association and the University of Pennsylvania. Did you go to the Alzheimer's Association at all? Did that even click as a possibility?
That's a great question. My husband was diagnosed with FTD, which is Frontal Temporal Degeneration. That is a form of dementia. It's one of the many dementias. He did not have Alzheimer's. So when individuals would ask me, there's a support group for Alzheimer's, the first thing I thought in my mind was, A, my husband doesn't have Alzheimer's, that's not for me. B, my husband's 57 years old. I'm sure that group is probably filled with a lot of senior citizens, and I don't belong there. This is not where we are here. And unfortunately, in the community that I live in, we're a little isolated, and we really didn't have a lot of resources in the area. So it was, with time and education, my neurologist, who liked what I did, liked all the research that I was doing, hired me as a patient care coordinator, and it was there that I learned that Alzheimer's is not just for senior citizens that have Alzheimer's. It is Alzheimer's and other related dementias, and they have a fantastic website. They have a lot of great resources, a lot of great community events, and I actually did belong to that organization in a sense. So I think, it's unfortunate, but it's Alzheimer's and other related dementias, and it's for anybody and everybody that's caring for someone with any of the dementias that are out there. Whether it's a vascular dementia or Lewy body's dementia or FTD or any of the dementias. So I learned, but there's just so many individuals that don't realize that, and support groups are really needed for caregivers, and that's a totally different subject. But research, having the time to research, and being educated in the field of this disease, and then being educated in what your community has to offer, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and that's why I basically enjoyed my job as a patient care coordinator, because I was able to help people over the phone. But then that's why, obviously, I started my magazine, because there's just so many people out there that are riddled with myths of, of what is offered and what's not offered, and who it's offered to, what they qualify for, what they don't qualify for, and I'm just hoping to, assist those caregivers that don't have the time, may not have the resources, may not have, the internet, may not have the, the means of researching the information that they really need.
Okay. Lori, I want to ask you, because you went through this whole process, too, in terms of how did you find support and information? Was your path kind of similar to what Christine and Joe went through?
Well, I did. We did try to reach out to the Alzheimer's Association, but really found that they had nothing to offer us other than the information on their website. What I found instead was through the internet, I was able to get involved in many support groups, visual chat groups of other people living with dementia. And then through that met you, Lori. And I found that the number of virtual chat groups that are available both for care partners and for people living with dementia is increasing. And it's just so valuable speaking with people living with dementia. I've learned so much from other people walking the same path. The doctor's office itself and the Alzheimer's Association had nothing or very little to offer. But online support groups has really been my lifesaver and has helped me to actually live and learn strategies for living.
So you found really the online connections through Facebook and Dementia Action Alliance and like Dementia Mentors have really been your lifesavers. Is that correct in saying that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I agree.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. Initially I kind of stepped into all of this about 10 years ago, even though my mom had dementia for 30 years. We didn't have all this social media stuff back then, and we really floundered greatly. But I remember when the social media stuff and connections first started coming about, how most business professionals and medical professionals just didn't feel that those could have value, that they weren't real relationships. And boy, has that myth been broken. I think it's still out there, but people just say how much it helps. And then with the video conferencing where you can actually see somebody and not just be texting or talking on the phone, there's just such added value in terms of getting to know people and feeling like you're in a real relationship. And then also being able to talk with peers as well has been real helpful. Now, Christine, why do you think is it important for us to talk about taking care of the caregiver or the care partner?
Goodness. Well, like Lori, I reached out throughout the internet and found some great support groups. And again, these individuals, no matter what they're writing, we can all relate. So when someone says, hey, I know what you're going through, or hey, I know how you feel, or you just really relate to them because you are going through the same exact thing. So you really definitely value their feelings and appreciate that. So I'm sorry, what was your question again?
It was just about taking care of the caregiver,
yes. Okay,
and why that's so important.
It's so important. You become very stressed. You become very worried. You become very fearful. You have quite a few emotions going on, and when the caregiver does not take care of themselves, they too start to suffer. I remember not getting enough rest because my husband was always up a lot, and therefore my immune system was weak, and I was catching one cold after another. I had bronchitis, I had pneumonia, you name it. So, with these diseases and being a full-time caregiver, you start to run down. You start to feel diseased in a sense. And, you're not taking care of yourself because their needs are so much greater. And it's almost like you're a parent again, and you lose your rest, you lose your time to exercise, you lose your time for yourself, and you lose yourself in this disease and in the whole process. And as a patient care coordinator, I've seen caregivers that, when you ask them, well, what are you doing for yourself? They look at you like you have three eyes. Like, I don't have any time to do anything for myself. What do you mean? I have to do this and this and this and this and this. It really starts to wear you down, and it's so super important. Even health insurance companies are giving you X amount of hours for respite and showing you the way of allowing you to put your loved one in a nursing home for a weekend so that you can go away and know that they're in great care, or providing in-home care services for X amount of hours so that you can have some respite. The adult day centers are there in the community for you to have that respite. And when you have that respite, you kind of get a handle of yourself and say, okay, I can do this as a caregiver. I have some time to breathe. I have some time to clean my home. I have some time to cook a decent meal. I have time to take a shower or even to sit in a bathtub. Like, I can just breathe and think and regroup. And all caregivers need that. And when they don't get it, it seems like they just go down with the disease. And you have to think about yourself. If you don't, you're not going to be an effective caregiver. You know, if you become ill, then who's going to care for your loved one? You know, if you become ill, who's going to be there for your children? And it's so super important that a caregiver takes good care of themselves, even if it's once a day, once a week, once a month. I have a friend who utilizes her caregiver to stay overnight for a week every 3 months, so that she can take a bus trip with her friends, so she can continue the relationship with her girlfriends or even with her family. It's just so key. And if you don't do that, it's almost like you're going into the cave with your loved one with this disease, and you lose your own self and you lose your own life.
Okay, great. Lori, I'm going to ask you on this one because, you know, you're on the flip side. You're living with the disease. Is this something that you worry about for, you know, with Roy caring for you?
Absolutely. In particular, he would love to move down south, get out of the cold and move to Florida. And there we wouldn't have any relatives there. And I keep saying, Roy, I'm not going to be like this forever. And then what's going to happen? So I do. I very much worry about that, because he's also the type of person that it would be very easy for him to just fall into helping me and doing nothing else with his life. And that's not what I want of his life. So it's very scary to think what's going to happen as I advance and what's going to happen to him. It frightens me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we've had a lot of conversations on Dementia Chats and various people, you know, I've talked to about this with people who are diagnosed. And this is a huge concern because they see the changes in their loved one who's caring for them. They see that they're tired. They see that they're stressed. They notice that maybe they're a little more run down, or maybe they're snapping because they're exhausted, you know, and behaviors have changed, or it's something that I think definitely needs to be talked about. And I know when I was caring for, you know, my dad with brain cancer, my mom with dementia, I was just like what you had mentioned, Christine. Are you kidding? Where the heck am I going to squeeze in a cup of coffee? Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. And I remember talking to my friends when they called, and finally I said I'd give them 10 minutes of my time, like I'm the big queen bee coming to town. And I really said it to get them off my back, because they called me every week, and it was a disruption to my routine. That's how I viewed it at the time, because I think as a care partner, you know, we take this job so seriously because we love our people so much, and we want to do the best we possibly can. But no one's taught us that in order to be our best, we have to be healthy. We have to be balanced. And I didn't know that until I did go have coffee with my friends. I didn't realize how depleted I had gotten until they filled me back up. And I think it's something that happens in our life routinely. Things change, and other people around can see the changes, but we don't see it or feel it because it's been a lot of times a slow change. And you've just made those adjustments, and plus, who has time to analyze what's going on? You know, you're just
Exactly.
getting through it all.
Exactly.
And so, but it is very important to feel balanced and to feel healthy, and or even doing some different tasks where you're doing them together, where it doesn't have to be busy. Maybe it's going to a movie, or maybe it's just going for a walk, or sitting at a park, or out your back door, where neither of you have to be busy. And one of my favorite sayings, you know, by Harry Urban, is, you know, I like to relax before I had dementia. I still do, you know, revel in my peacefulness. come and sit me and enjoy, the wind on our face, the smell of the flowers, the sun warming our body. And I think we just, as human beings, we don't feel that we can do that or that we have a right to do that. And yet that is at the core of all our relationships, is just that being together and the importance of that, or having that downtime, which, we all require. None of us have ever been tied to somebody 24/7 all day long. And the person with dementia and the care partner both deserve a little quiet time and a little alone time. That's healthy. But for some reason, we get in this mode thinking that it's not. Lori, do you have any comments to what I just said? Lori, do you have any comments to what I just said, or maybe you ran away for a little bit?
No, I'm sorry. I had put it on mute and forgot it was on mute. I did have a question for Christine, if I may. We talked about my fear with Roy. What are your biggest fears in Joe's dementia journey and your dementia journey? What do you fear the most? I know for me, I don't fear, but I get sad for the day that I don't remember my loved ones and for the possible anger and agitation that I cause. What are your fears?
That's hard to say. I guess right now my fear is watching the whole process of death take over and how it takes over, and where will I be and what will I see. I guess the fear of the unknown, that's my fear right now. But I feel as though it's interesting. I'm reading quite a few books, and there's one book that I read. It talked about how heartbroken this husband was when his wife no longer recognized him and said, "Who are you? Why are you here?" And how much that broke her heart. And I thought, oh my goodness, if my husband ever did that to me, it would certainly break my heart. But my husband's nonverbal now. He has the aphasia, and he doesn't speak. And I thought, wow, maybe, even though I'm so upset that he doesn't speak to me as well as he used to. My husband was so super talkative. I hardly ever got a word in edgewise. And now it's my turn to speak, actually. But, I yearn for him to repeat after me, "I love you," and he says, "I love you." But, I was kind of blessed in a sense that I won't get that opportunity where my husband will look at me and say those words to me, and "I don't know who you are, and why are you here, and get out," or whatever. So, I guess you kind of have to take your blessings one day at a time, and but just the fear of the unknown. I'm not sure how this is all going to go down. I'm not sure when. I'm not sure where. I'm not sure how. I'm not sure, what the whole process is going to be like. So that's what I fear. But other than that, I'm just preparing myself. I feel as though I'm at the longest funeral ever, and I'm preparing myself. So when this happens, what will you do? And who should know this? And who should know that? And what's your process? And who's going to speak at his funeral? And where will this take place? And I feel like I'm planning in advance for what's ahead, and in hopes that when that time does come, I'll be so prepared that everything will work, like clockwork, and it'll be perfect. But I don't know. That's my fear of not knowing how this is going to all come to an end. My husband right now resides in a nursing home, and I have to make a lot of decisions for him, and I have, all the staff members there as, part of my team now, and but basically, I'm writing my magazine, and I was just finishing writing about the cover of my magazine. And being a caregiver, it's a team sport. You don't think about playing football by yourself or soccer or hockey. You can't do it. It's just unheard of. You can't play a team sport by yourself, and it takes a team to be a caregiver. So gaining your team and putting everybody in place and having that support behind you is so meaningful and so important, and they can help you along with all your fears.
Okay, Lori, any other comment?
You talked about the services that are available and how you help people set them up. If I'm not in the area you service, how do I go about finding out what services are available? What's my best, how do I find out how to get a care partner, a caregiver to come in and give my husband respite, or how do I find these things out?
It took several years of research, but I made a lot of phone calls, Department of Aging, the social services buildings, your local senior centers, asked lots of questions. I called the FTD organization. I went on the websites and internet sites and Facebook pages. I went to the Department of the state departments, the government agencies. I've gone to neurologists. I've gone to social workers. I've gone to the hospitals. I've gone to various support groups. I've contacted funeral directors. Contacted, you name it, a lot of the nursing homes. I've contacted in-home care agencies. I just Googled quite a bit, and I put together binders and binders of information. I talked to people that run rehab centers. There's more than one rehab center. Between the social worker that I worked with at the Dementia Center and myself, all day we would just spend on the internet just Googling certain topics and getting lists of locations. It's unfortunate. I live in, a small isolated area. When it was time to look for nursing homes, I Googled nursing homes, and I called every single one of them in this county, and not one of them would accept him because of his age, because of his activity level, because of some odd reason. And unfortunately, I had to use a nursing home in a different county. But then, with that research, I found out there's X amount of nursing homes. There's X amount of, we have over 12 to 15 in-home care agencies, and out of all those care agencies, only 3 of them accept Medicaid and Medicare. So I just did a lot of research and a lot of questions, a lot of constantly asking, and that's how I got my binders filled with valuable information that will assist anybody and everybody in my 2 counties. So, but it takes the time. It takes a lot of time and a lot of research.
Yeah. Another resource would be churches and sometimes even cities can point you into it. It all depends, where to go, and how involved they truly are. Or assisted livings or memory care a lot of times will have different resources as well that they can help tap you into.
That's true.
Now, I want to make sure that we talk about the magazine. I've got more questions kind of about your journey, but when did you decide, Christine, to start a magazine? And the magazine, for our listeners, is called Dementia 101.
Dementia Care 101, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I worked at a dementia center for a little over a year, and I had over 62 clients that were patients of our doctor, and I spoke to the caregivers on a monthly basis. And when I called, it was just a matter of just saying, hello, how are you doing? How are you making out? What are you doing for yourself as a caregiver? What's going on with your loved one? And just, basic conversation. But then as we were speaking, there were some needs or some concerns that came about, and I would open my binder and say, hey, you need some respite time. Did you know that there's a respite grant that the Alzheimer's organization can assist with? And no, I didn't know that. So my clients would take a pen and paper when I call, and they're, okay, Christine, give me some phone numbers. Who should I call now? And where should I go? And what should I look for? And can you guide me here? Can you guide me there? And I did that. It was extremely rewarding. But I only touched upon my clients, my 60-some clients. And I thought, wow, there's such a need. I can't believe that there's such a need in my community. And I just didn't feel as though I was doing enough, even though I had plenty of patients to call on a daily basis. But there was just so many more people out there that didn't see my particular doctor, and some of them didn't even go to a neurologist. They just went to a family practitioner. So I thought there has to be another way I can do this. So unfortunately, my husband's neurologist retired, and the dementia center was going through some changes. And I thought, how can I don't want to, quit my job and hang up my binders and put them in a closet on a shelf and move on to a different career, because this is such valuable information, and I see, how my clients respond when I call. So what can I do to get this information out? What can I do to keep this information flowing throughout, the community? And I thought, why not? Let's put a magazine together. And I knew it was pretty risky because it's very, narrow. It's caregivers for those that are caring for dementia patients. But there's a lot of people in this field that want to get their information out, and there's quite a bit of information. And I also noticed that some of my seniors, they don't navigate the Internet, and they have difficulty doing the research that I did. So it was a great way of sharing the research and all the work that I put into my resource binders, and share it with the community members, and in hopes that they'll find it. So the magazine is distributed throughout both counties, in the supermarkets, in the libraries, and the county offices, the Department of Aging, the recreation centers, the VFWs, wherever I think that I could find a senior that may be interested in picking it up and reading it. Maybe it would benefit them.
Okay. Great. Now, Lori, I wanted to talk to you about her magazine, because I know that you're featured in it for this fall article. And what are your thoughts about the magazine? Is it do you see it as a greater need?
I do. I think it's another source that is just full of very, very helpful information and articles. Pardon me. Not everyone, as Christine mentioned, is going to be Internet savvy, and not everyone is going to have an idea as to where to start and where to look. For example, our article about what is adult daycare. That just gives you a lot of information, step by step. What are the benefits and how to go about it? So I do. I think this is, and I love the cover, making it look like a composition book.
Thanks. It will actually be 4 different colors for the 4 different seasons. So.
Oh, nice.
Yes, it'll be pretty. So December is red and white.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So I think it's very helpful for people to have the information that she's offering here.
And Lori, just to pinpoint that, I didn't know what a senior care was or active day was. And I didn't know that would be something my husband would either qualify for or if it would even be for him. I had no clue. And, once I delved into it and learned more about it, I didn't even know my community had one. And actually my community only has one. Atlantic County has several. But, and then when I talked to my patients and I said, I would pose that question, did you ever consider an adult day center? They would say, what is that? Mm-hmm. And I would tell them, well, this is what it is, and this is what it can provide you. Oh, well, I don't think my loved one would be interested in that. I said, well, you don't know until you try. So I really just want to put information out there and educate, basically, and let people know that there is something that you have never heard of or didn't even realize is right here in our own backyard that you can utilize. So.
Well, and I think that's a really good point, too, because a lot of the verbiage, you don't know what you don't know until you find out you don't know it when you need it.
Exactly.
And so, adult day is confusing. It's not something that you think about. Respite care, most people don't have a clue what that is. Same with palliative care. Is really comfort. Yep, and hospice. Mm-hmm. And the two are different, and people, they need help maneuvering this process and going to a trusted source. And I think it would, to me, it just would make so much sense for insurance companies to really do something with this to help their client base, because they have such a huge reach, and work with someone like you who's in the crux of it and knows the hard way, know how difficult it is to maneuver. I think they all think that it's an easy system to maneuver, but that's because they're in it every day. They know the acronyms, and it's second nature to them. But for someone who this is a brand new race, and then you're under all that stress, it's very complicated. Very complicated.
It's a growing field, and unfortunately the doctors, they can only spend a certain amount of time with each patient, and they do what they do, and they don't really educate and tell you where to go or where to find resources or what to do. And a lot of patients, I guess, expect their doctors to tell them, what should I do, what's my next step, and where can I go for help. The doctors don't even know. So, it's wonderful to be able to pick up a magazine in a doctor's office and at least get a few answers here and there, and have a resource guide. But there's more and more organizations that are making them, so I'm really happy to see that. The Alzheimer's organization, some of the rehab centers are making little playbooks or manuals for dementia care, and so it's good to see that they're taking information and putting it in black and white so that the elderly or whomever that don't navigate the internet can pick it up and use it as a resource guide and a helpful guide.
Have you? Oh, go ahead, Lori.
May I? Your husband is young, as he's a year older than I am. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we have found to be so difficult to maneuver is the age factor. Department of Aging doesn't really want to talk to you.
Of course.
Everybody refers to it as old for elderly care. Mm-hmm. And we hear that over and over again. How have you felt in dealing with Joe?
Discriminated against. That's just the easiest word to describe it. I felt very discriminated against. He was too young. He didn't qualify for this. He didn't qualify for that. Department of Aging, how old is he? Oh, no, we don't have anything for him. You contact various organizations, you tell them your situation, and it doesn't qualify. So I had so many doors shut in my face, slammed in my face, and I was left in the cold, and I didn't know what to do or where to go, and I just had to keep digging and digging and digging. I just felt like a person with a shovel and just kept on digging until I found, some gold at the bottom of the hole. Not easy. And even now, my mother-in-law is in her 80s, and she lives very close by, and she just lost her husband to Lewy bodies dementia. I was able to get her a couple grants to assist her, some good caregivers to assist her, and he recently passed, and she's like, oh, I don't have anything to live for. And I said, if I can get your son closer, I want you to go visit him so you can help me with having someone there every day with him. And I was still denied, and that rejection hurts. The closed doors and the rejection hurts, and the discrimination against hurts. And, I have to drive 55 minutes away just to see my husband and plan the whole day around it because it takes almost a half a day, just for a visit. So I find that within this journey, there's a lot of closed doors. It's not an easy flowing journey. There's a lot of dead ends, and it's very frustrating. It's very humiliating. It's very embarrassing. It's very disheartening. It's not easy, unfortunately.
Now, Christine, what are your thoughts about therapy and being involved in support groups? for yourself as a care partner. And I don't know if Joe was involved with either, or is currently.
Well, I think Joe, unfortunately, with his FTD, he was more of kind of like numb. He really didn't know what was going on, and he really didn't have the words to express it. And he didn't know why he was doing certain things, and he was kind of like oblivious. But support for me as a caregiver is instrumental. Talk therapy is so helpful. Having great friends, so helpful. Having family members, so helpful. And being young, I didn't feel super comfortable being in a support group or round table type support group, but being on the internet at night when I can't sleep and being with those that I don't know but are going through the same thing and have the same feelings and have the same thoughts and have the same fears, I found comfort in that. And matter of fact, I even found a friend in that support group that lived right around the corner from me. So, we got together a few times. So it's so helpful to be with and talk with those that are going through the same process. And it's so needed. It's so needed because you go through quite a few feelings. Like right now, I feel as though I'm going through a little bit of a depression. I didn't have it as much when he was here because I think I was so preoccupied with everything I had to do. But now that he's away and that I, travel to see him, the guilt is still there, the fear is still there, the same feelings are still there. They're just kind of surfacing because I have more time for them to surface, I guess. So there are organizations that have grants that provide in-home counseling. There's counseling services, and I highly recommend them because these are feelings that you can't keep in, and not everybody quite understands. So it's a tough journey, and you do feel a little isolated.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to mention before, too, and I forgot, Maria Shriver's Women's Alzheimer's Movement has some grants. They're working with somebody for respite care. So if people go to the Women's Alzheimer's Movement.org, that's the Women's Alzheimer's Movement.org, they might be able to find more information there for some respite care as well. Lori, what are your thoughts about therapy? Is that something that you and Roy have done?
No, we live more in the country, and there's not a whole lot available around here at all. We still have dial-up internet. That should explain a lot. So there's not a whole lot around here, and so for us to go for anything like that means driving. So we instead have learned to rely on each other and talk a lot. We share our feelings with each other a lot. And with my family, I have an extremely supportive family that calls just to talk to Roy and see how he's doing.
That's great.
That's wonderful. Well, I can't believe our hour is almost up here. Christine, is there anything else that you have learned on your journey that you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, just know that it's not easy, and to have strength and have faith and have hope, and to educate yourself as much as you can, and to have the energy to do as much research as you can, and keep fighting for what you need and what you want, and enjoy what you have. Life is not easy, but know that others may have a more difficult life than you do, so always be thankful for what you do have, and continue to march on. And ask. Get that support group together and constantly ask for help. There are quite a few people out there that are willing to assist. They just don't know how. So ask, and you will receive.
Okay. Now, you had mentioned about having faith. Are you speaking in terms of belief, or are you speaking in terms of religion? And has religion helped you through this process at all? I always find that interesting. People's views on that.
I think both, actually, because I think in reference to religion, a lot of people have some mixed feelings. One way you're thankful for everything that you have and that you've accomplished and so forth, but yet you also have the anger and you ask those questions why. But to have faith in anything and everything that you can grasp onto makes a world of difference. I do a lot of reading and a lot of praying and a lot of singing and try to smile, and sometimes I feel like Jekyll and Hyde. You're on, you're off, you're up, you're down, but just to continue to have the strength and the faith in whatever you can grasp onto that gives you comfort is super important.
Okay. Lori, how about you? What have you learned on your journey with dementia?
Number one is not to give in and let anybody tell you that you can't do things, but rather try and find encouragement in how you can do things, what strategies you can implement to do things. And number two, to me, my faith is very important and has helped us get through just an awful lot. So I do depend on my faith and being able to talk to God and cry and scream. I think God understands when I go, "What'd you do this to me for?" Mm-hmm. I think God understands that frustration. I think second most important is when you have dementia, it is so important while you can to get involved with others living with dementia so that they can help you, so you can learn from them, because they have just such valuable information to share that you're not going to get with someone who has not experienced it firsthand.
That's true.
Very true. Very true. Well, thank you, ladies, both for being on the show. If you want to reach out to Christine and learn more about Dementia Care 101 magazine, you can email her at dementiacare101mag@gmail.com. That's dementiacare101mag@gmail.com. The subscriptions for the magazine is, it's $15 a year. And feel free to, again, contact her with any questions. You can also call her at 609-741-7307. That's 609-741-7307. And you can pay via PayPal or use credit cards or make a checkout. We have all that information listed underneath the show there. So again, thank you so much, ladies, for being part of the show. I really appreciate
Thanks.
The work both
Thanks
of you are
us.
doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thanks for having us.
Well, great. In wrapping up, I'm just going to give a shout out to, I already kind of gave a shout out to Maria Shriver, but her Women's Alzheimer's movement is just doing some marvelous things, and they are raising funds to try to find research in terms of why more women than men are getting diagnosed with dementia. Also, there's an app called the Roberto app, which measures brain function through video engagement, and you can learn more about that. Just go to alzheimerspeaks.com. That's alzheimerspeaks.com, and you'll see a banner for the Roberto app on the right column, and you will get you can get an extended free trial if you'd like to check it out first. And then last, I want to give a shout out to my gals, Kathy and Tammy at Dementia Raw, also known as Silver Dawn Training Institute. They have an unscripted approach, which is kind of unconventional and unapologetic. They do a lot of improv, dealing with real life scenarios and looking at things from the patient's vantage point. And I just so admire their work. You can go to cdcsdementiaraw.com. That's cdcsdementiaraw.com. And You'll be able to find out about their certified dementia communication specialist training program, along with some of their challenges that they have that are really fun and insightful to try. So thank you so much, and we will talk with you next week. Bye now.
Hey everybody, Jared Sebestier, host of Retire Repurposed. This podcast is dedicated to help people transition into fulfilling and purposeful retirements. Retirement is a big life change. In fact, the two most dangerous years of a person's life are the year they were born and the year they retire. Few people can just flip the switch from working a career 30 or 40 plus years, retiring on Friday, without methodical steps to living what we call a repurposed retirement. To listen now, search Retire Repurposed on your favorite podcast platform, Senior Resource, or Life Audio.